Coming up, the spring baseball season is making its final postseason push. We've got highlights and previews from this year's State A tournament qualifier.
Plus, Alex Heinert has the highlights from the best track and field in the area, including a remarkable 400-meter run in Brookings.
And it's time to run another leg of the interstate medley as the Heinerts, Alex and Allen, face off in our lighthearted battle for state supremacy.
Don't go anywhere. Varsity Sports starts right now.
Hello and welcome to Varsity Sports alongside Jason Andera. I am Jay Elson. Well, we've got a lot of track and field to tell you about here tonight, but this week we are going to zero in on the race for a baseball title.
Yeah, while North Dakota is busy prepping for regional tournaments, the field of four is already set for Monday's South Dakota Class A tournament. That'll be played at Sioux Falls Stadium.
Yes, it will. Let's take a look now at how those teams qualified in this week's Rewind. Defending champion Lincoln squared off with intra-city rival Washington for the Region 1 title. The Warriors tallied once in both the third and fourth innings to jump in front 2-1 in this game, but the champs bounced back in a big way, scoring 4 runs in the bottom of the fourth to take the lead for good. The Patriots played their way back into the State A tournament with a 6-2 win.
Mitchell and O'Gorman each needed extra innings to advance to the Region 2 final, and it looked like they might need them again, but it was the Colonels tallying twice in the 6th inning to break that 1-1 tie, and they went on to get the 3-1 decision. Mitchell's Matt Larson got his second win of the day in that game.
Not a bad day for him. In Region 3 now, Pierre used a combined no-hitter and a triple play to get into the regional final. And once they were there, the Governors still had plenty left in the tank. They rolled to a 10-2 win over Rapid City Central, securing their second consecutive berth in the State A tournament.
Pierre might be the hottest team right now. They've got 8 wins in a row coming out of that one. Let's move to Region 4 now. Brookings took control early against Watertown on Monday. The Bobcats scored 3 runs in the first and went on for a 5-1 win. It was Kyle Krogman who had another big day, going 2 for 2 at the plate with 2 RBIs and 2 runs scored. On the mound, it was Seth Frazier and Jared Cheddar who combined to give up just 4 hits in that win.
Well, as we said, the field is set.
Yes.
Those are your 4 teams. Coming up, we're going to take a closer look at the semifinal pairings for this year's South Dakota State A tournament and also share our list of potential impact players. That's coming up next on Varsity Sports.
Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by AE Tech Electrical Training Center in Rapid City. Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Shields.
There's a lot on the table. It's one and done for losses. So that's the challenge that us coaches have to kind of, convince our guys or get them to buy into the fact that it is the same game and it's still going to be 60 feet 6 inches, 90 foot bases and all that stuff. So, it's kind of the mind game where you really got to get yourself into that comfort zone, and hopefully we'll get there come Monday.
That was Brookings assistant coach Rob Hershoff talking about that big game mentality that is so important this time of year. And, of course, his Bobcats now getting ready for the South Dakota State A tournament. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a bit, Jason. But for now, let's shift our focus to North Dakota. Baseball diamonds in that state going to be awfully busy as well here over the next few days because it is region tournament time for those teams. And here now is a look at the bracket for the East Region tourney, which is scheduled to get underway Thursday at Jack Williams Stadium in Fargo. One thing certain here, Jandy, I think anyway, is that West Fargo is the overwhelming favorite.
Well, they are. They've gone much of the season without even suffering a loss, and that's because of their solid pitching rotation, and it starts at the top with Ben Strom. He had 6 consecutive games in the middle of the season without allowing an earned run, but it's not just him. Matt Hewitt on the mound, Hunter Ulmer, both undefeated pitching this year. However, last Saturday they did slip up. They lost a game to Davies. Of course, that was the second game of a doubleheader, not the regional game. So I think they still have the confidence that they're the best. But Davies and Red River, 2 teams to watch out for there. They're not that far back from a very tough West Fargo team.
Out west, the WDA tournament also set to get underway on Thursday. That one's going to be played in Mandan. And as you look over this field, Jason, who do you think could cause problems?
Well, the WDA is very crowded. We'll give them that. But I think the number 4 seed, Dickinson, came into the year as the coach's number 1 team. Kind of struggled a little bit, but they're the number 1 team as far as runs and hits, and they kind of struggle with runners on base. If they can get those runners through, this could be a very powerful team offensively, and they've got the ace with Mark Erickson. The rest of this field, though, I could see Bismarck doing it with their hitters. I could see Century doing it. They are 2-7 in one-run games. If they get that together, they can do it. And everybody knows Mandan's good with their ace, Parker Harm, at the top.
And remember, you really only have to finish in the top 4 to qualify for the state
tournament.
tournament.
I mean, if you can get that win on Thursday and Friday, you're guaranteed to make it to state. And even if you don't win one of those 2 games, there's a chance to get into the state tournament.
All right, let's slide back to South Dakota now. As we mentioned earlier, the Final Four is set for Monday's State A tournament in Sioux Falls. The first semifinal matchup, Jason, should be a good one. Defending champion Lincoln is going to take on Mitchell.
Yeah, these 2 teams matched up back on April 13th. It seems like a world ago as far as baseball goes, but those 2 teams were very different than they are now. Lincoln won that game back then. Since then, Mitchell has gone 12-3 over their last 15 games. They're a team to be reckoned with. But when you talk about the defending champs, getting their confidence together, playing very well at the regional tournament, really having 2 aces to give the ball to in a 2-game tournament, it's going to come in handy.
Yeah, that pitching depth is very important. That's a wild card for a lot of teams in this state tournament format as we know it now. Brookings and Pierre are going to square off in the day's second semifinal. What are your thoughts on this particular matchup?
This one has to be good. They have matched up 3 times already this year. All 3 of those games came down to 1 run. All 3 of those games were won by Pierre. And they lost all those games as a result of poor fielding by Brookings. So I think if Brookings gets that tidied up, they feel like they can play right with Pierre, and they think this might be the one. It's tough to beat a team 4 times in the same season.
Let alone 3 times, right?
Yeah.
Well, Pierre is coming in awfully hot. We mentioned that earlier. They've won 8 straight games. But let's talk individuals now. Impact players. Give me some pitchers and hitters that have a chance to be difference makers in this tournament.
Well, I think for Mitchell, you got to start with Jed Schmidt. He is a guy that his OPS is over 1,000 at the high school level. That's unheard of. And he's also a terror on the base pass. 17 of 18 in his stolen base mark this year. He's a great player. Landon Negebauer, one of their extra base guys, 7 extra base hits, 23 RBIs, leads the team. Then you move to Lincoln. They've got a lineup full of guys that can get it done, but you got to go look at Parker Bullard, the all-state guy who's returning. He gets on base, and Caleb Anderson in the middle of that lineup can drive people in. For Brookings, it's been Kyle Krogman who's been getting on base. Had a terrific last couple of weeks. He has really stepped his game up. Mac Burns, another guy that can power it for them. And then you go to Pierre. Not a lot of home runs on this team, but when you got a guy like Landon Badger with 7 triples on the year and Quinn Reimers hitting over 400, I think that's a good start to a good offense for Pierre.
All right. Looking forward to the tournament. Thanks, Jaddy. You're going to be able to see some of those impact players in action on Monday night in the championship game of the South Dakota State A baseball tournament. It's going to air live here on Midco Sports Network. Jason and I are going to have the call for you from Sioux Falls Stadium with our coverage starting at 7 o'clock. All right, that is a wrap on baseball for this week, leaving us plenty of time to talk track and field. Round 2 of the Heinert versus Heinert battle coming up a little bit later. But first, we're going to look back at some of last week's highlights.
Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by AE Tech Electrical Training Center in Rapid City. Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Shields.
We're back. Well, in spite of some odd weather for the middle of May, it was a full weekend of track and field in North and South Dakota, and that weekend was actually extended into this week's thanks to Mother Nature. As always, here to break it all down for us is our own Alex Heinert, and lots of scheduling headaches around the area here, Alex.
Yeah, who would want to be an athletic director this past weekend,
man.
right? The elements made for a lot of scrambling last week in regards to meet schedules and locations, especially in North Dakota. 5 of the 8 region meets were forced to shift dates or locations due to heavy rain looming in the forecast. One of those meets in flux, the Class A West region moved from Dickinson to Bismarck, and the change suited the Demons' Hunter Johnson. The junior gets by Minot's Carter Gorney for the first time this season in both the 1 and the 2. Another one of those victories came in the shot. John Tharaldson nearly goes out of the pit with this Bismarck Bowl record toss of 63 feet 6.5 inches. The Demon Boys would take the team crown easily. On the girls' side, Bismarck had great individual days from Maddie Shirley Fairbairn, who won the 8 and the mile, and from Cara Hausler, who swept all 3 sprints and won the long jump. Century's depth, though, would help the Pats beat out the Demons for the girls' team title. Earlier in the day, on the same track, it was Class B's South Central region. And how good has Dakota Wood of Hazen been this year? She'd take wins in both hurdle races and the 200 as the Bison would cruise to the girls' team title. Speaking of cruising, Elliott Stone of Shiloh Christian would put up great times in winning the 800 and the mile. He'll be right in the mix in both of those races and in the 2 mile at the Class Bs this weekend. To Madison now, we had a chance to see one of the best distance runners in South Dakota's Class A do her thing, Marissa Schultz of Dakota Valley, who really burst onto the scene of the Dakota Relays this year. Would win the mile and the 2 mile over strong competition. She's got the best 2 mile time in Class A this season. She'll be one of the favorites next weekend at the state meet. Schultz had a great day, so did the hosts. Madison's always so tough on the girls' side. They would take home relay wins in the 4x2, the 4x4, the 4x8, and the medley. Olivia Rude would anchor 2 of those wins and collect individual titles in the Open 2 and 400 as well. The Bulldogs would cruise to the girls' team title by 29 points over Canton. The boys' day was highlighted by West Central's Jonah Rachtenbaugh. The junior sprinter would sweep the 1, 2, and 4, as well as anchor the Trojans' winning 4x2 team. This kid will be right in the mix for state titles in all 3 disciplines in Class A. The Trojans would win the conference title by 3 points over Del Rapids. Finally, let's go to Brookings now for the ESD conference meet on Saturday and Tuesday, as this meet was split in half due to lightning and rain. One athlete winning events on both days, Watertown's Mason Herricks, as he takes the 100 and 200 titles. Telpier was finished 3rd in the team race behind runner-up Pier, and these guys, the crew from Yankton, the Bucks, who quietly have some of the best relay teams in the state, would win the 4x1, 4x2, and 4x4 en route to their first conference track title since 2005. On the girls' side, so good to see Madison Gray of Brookings running like this again. Defending AA 800 champs, been out most of the year with injury, but she chases down Aberdeen Central's Lexi Weisbeck here in a great time of 2:17 to take the ESD half title. Really, though, like every week, this meet was all about Brandon Valley doing Brandon Valley things. The Lynx would own the long distances, winning the 4x8 to the medley and getting school record-setting wins from Courtney Klatt in the mile and 2 mile. They'd combine that with 2 more individual titles from Krista Bickley in the 2 and a record-breaking 55.9 run from her in the 4. And then just for fun, they'd top it off with the second best 4x4 time in South Dakota history, crossing in 3:53 to ice their second conference title in as many weeks. And not an ideal couple of days for track and field, but even though we had a lot of great performances in spite of the weather, let's just hope the cold, wet conditions don't stick around this weekend in Bismarck or next weekend in the Black Hills.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, don't go anywhere just yet. Much more to come from the Heinert family on this edition of Varsity Sports. Round 2 of the fantasy draft for our interstate medley coming up in a bit. But first, Alex is going to help us look ahead to this weekend's North Dakota State Track and Field Championships.
Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by AE Tech Electrical Training Center in Rapid City. Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Shields.
Alex Heinert's back with us for more track and field talk. And Alex, with the North Dakota State Track and Field Championships set for this Friday and Saturday in Bismarck, it's time for a special Peace Garden State Track edition of the Acceleration Zone. What time are we talking with this week?
Well, it's easy to get nostalgic over what happened a year ago at the state meets. 6 state records went down in 2014 in North Dakota, which is impressive. But what's worth bringing up again is that one guy had a hand in 3 of them. Landon Yoakum of Century set new state meet records in the 2 and the 4 and anchored the Patriots 4x4 to a new record time of 3:21 flats. And it's that 3:21 mark that we're saluting today, a year after it happens.
All right, well, that time is up on the clock. The gun is raised, and here we go. Let's start in Class A. Century's girls just won the West Region title for the 5th year in a row. Do they make it 5 straight state titles this weekend?
Yes. Bismarck High has a lot of shining individual talent, and they're going to win a lot of events on Friday and Saturday, but Century's depth is what has put them over the top in recent years. It'll do so again this spring. The Pats don't have much sprinting firepower this year, but what they do have, they'll have 3 or more medal winners in the 800 on up on the track and in nearly every throwing event, and that mass accumulation of points will be enough to see them through. Just to point out how important depth is, guess how many Patriots are seeded first going into state? One.
Wow.
They're favored in one event, Michaela Montgomery in the triple jump, and I still think they win going away.
Wow. Well, all right. We have a similar dynamic in the Class A boys, don't we?
Yeah, we do, actually, though not quite to that extreme. Bismarck High has got a ton of depth in the middle and long distances and in the throws like they always have, but they've also got star power this year as well. John Tharrelson's favored to do well in the throws. He'll do the throws double this year. Lyndon Mertz is looking for his second straight pole vault crown. Sam Klosnitzer could and should do the distance double, and after this past weekend, Hunter Johnson has emerged as the favorite in the sprints. Plus, you know they'll be first or second in every relay. Again, nobody's touching the Demons. I think they make it an even dozen straight titles.
That is incredible. On to Class B now. This girls' team race looks to be a pretty good one. You picked Hazen over Carrington back at the start of the year, Alex. Are you standing by that choice as we enter state meet time?
Yes, I am. Carrington has won the last 3 titles, and they'll be right in the mix. They're going to go 1-2 in the shot and the disc with Kari Hohalter and Bailey Retzloff. But after looking at the qualifiers list, Hazen has kids all over that thing in almost every event. Dakota Wood's going to lead the charge in the hurdles and the sprints, but it's not just on her. Stephanie Ziegler's returned from a knee injury. She'll contend in the sprints and lead this great Bison relay contingent that's favored in the 4x1, 4x2, and 4x4. Plus, they've got contenders in the high jump, the triple jump, and even the discus. Hazen beat Carrington at the South Central Region meet by 53.5 points. State will be a little bit tighter, but I still think it's going to be Hazen on top in the end.
All right, Class B boys now. You think this could be the tightest team race in North Dakota this year? Who are you picking between?
You know, it's going to come down to Newtown versus Carrington. The Cardinals will be strong in the sprints and the relays behind Seth Abarea and company. Riley Miller's got a shot to win the long jump and will contend in the triple. They're going to place in more events than Newtown, but the thing is, Newtown has got the depth in the long distances, and that's where they're going to pull away. They're led by standout sophomore Ryan Willing. They have 5 of the top 8 2-milers and 3 of the top 4 1,600-meter runners in the field. That's how you win team competitions like this. And you throw in Elijah Grady, who will go first or second in the shot and the disc. Unless my math is wrong, I think Newtown takes the title by at least 10 points.
All right, looking forward to seeing what happens this weekend. Quickly now, let's get our Platinum Leaderboard update.
Yeah, a couple changes this week. Jacob Simmons went off in the 800 at the Rapid City Invite. He's now top 10 all-time in South Dakota. John Tharaldson, Jessica Grady went much bigger in the field to add to their already stellar marks. A few new faces on here too. Hunter Johnson and Krista Bickley joining that list in the 2 and the 4. Akili Moten of West Fargo makes a big splash in the shot put at the East Region meet. Her throw of 45 feet, 8.5 inches, nearly a 1.5 feet better than our previous platinum mark. I told you. Wow. I told you those field records were going down.
Yeah, you did. You said last week those field events weren't set in stone. Clearly, you were right yet again.
I think a few more might go down this weekend as well.
All right, well, nice work. Coming up next on Varsity Sports, we've got round 2 of our interstate medley. Alex's cousin Alan returns, and we'll resume the Heinert versus Heinert debate on who's the best between North and South Dakota.
Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by AE Tech Electrical Training Center in Rapid City. Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Shields.
And welcome back. Well, last week we introduced you to the Varsity Sports Interstate Medley, a competition between the top high school runners in North and South Dakota that starts this weekend at the North Dakota State Track Meet in Bismarck and continues next week at the South Dakota State Meet in Rapid City.
Yeah, the boys participants were selected last week on the show by Alex Heinert and his track-savvy cousin Alan. And they're both back this week to give us a rundown on the list of girls taking part in the relay.
Hey, thanks, guys. A big welcome back to Alan Heinert. He made a great debut in the program last week. You ready for round 2? Can't wait. Hey, new glasses this week? Yeah, I broke my normal pair after I heard about Dave Hackstall leaving UND. Hey, sorry for your loss. Yeah. Well, hey, just like last week with the boys, we're picking 2 200 runners, 1 400 runner, and 1 half-miler from each state to complete our interstate medley. You had some obvious choices on the boys' side in North Dakota in the 200s. Who are you going with for the girls? Oh, this is anything but clear-cut, as there are a lot of good candidates to choose from, but I've settled on Ashley Roan of Grand Forks Red River to lead things off. She's a proven champion at the state level and has been the second best sprinter in North Dakota all year in the 1, the 2, and the 4. She's an easy choice. The second 200 leg, though, not as simple. I went back and forth a lot between Dakota Wood of Hazen and Beatrice Jellin of Park River, Fordville, Lankin. But after looking at the times a little closer, I'm going with Shanley's Afure Ada. She's the top Class A hurdler and is a 25.8 200 runner that can really stride. She's got a little more high-end speed than that Class B contingent. Okay, good picks, but while North Dakota has a couple of girls in the mid-25s, South Dakota Dakota has 3 in the 24s. I'll save one of those kids for the quarter and go with Brandon Valley's Krista Bickley and Watertown's Macy Denzer. Totally different styles, but each has run 24-9 this spring to tie for the top spot on the Platinum standings. I like South Dakota's chances with Denzer and Bickley leading things off. Yeah, I bet you do. But you know, I like North Dakota's chances in the quarter. I could have picked Bismarck sophomore Cara Hausler for a 200 spot as she's tops in the state in that discipline, but she's also the best 400 runner in North Dakota by over a second at 56.64. This is the spot where I think she can do the most damage, right? Hausler's great, but is she Courtney Dowling great? Even though there are some concerns about the Pierre Jr.'s hamstring that's kept her out of action for a month, I can't not put her in this spot as she's the best 400 runner all time in South Dakota. It would be tough to imagine Dowling not finding a way to come back for the state meet at the end of May. Yeah, that's still, though, just a bit of a risk, isn't it? Maybe, but that's why we have alternates, Alan. All right, last leg now. Who do you have in the 800? That's another really tough choice. Asha Smith of Watford City has the most potential. She's run 2:14 in her career. She's the defending Class B state champ, but she's been dealing with injury since early in the cross-country season. Maddie Shirley Fairbairn of Bismarck has been awesome in the 8 through the 2 mile, but I worry that she's going to be burned out with a full program of events at state. That leaves me with Gracie Wright of Hillsborough Central Valley. She's just a freshman, but she's got the best time in North Dakota in the 800 this year at 2:17. Plus, she's a 57-second quarter runner. She could be the next great one in the state, and I think she'll go low at Bismarck this weekend. But even though I'm a tremendous homer, I know this is where things will go south for North Dakota. Yeah, indeed, my friend. That's because the Rushmore State's anchor leg is 11-time state champ Macy Hines, who ran a ridiculous 2-minute, 11-second time at Howard Wood this year. The sophomore from Ipswich will have a busy state meet with 4 open events likely on the way, but I think she'll have plenty of gas on day 1 to push for her 2nd consecutive South Dakota all-class gold medal in this event. That's game, set, match. I feel like Ipswich is essentially in North Dakota, right? I vote we should annex Edmonds County for a week. Dugard would never go for it. Hey, thanks again for making the trip from White Earth. Best of luck on the picks, and we'll see you in 2 weeks for the award ceremony. Oh, I'll be here. All right, sounds good. For my cousin Alan, I'm Alex. Back to you.
Those crazy Heinards. You never know what you're going to get from them, do you?
No, the family rivalry is certainly heating up. I'm excited to see how this thing plays out here over the next couple of weeks.
Stay tuned, everybody.
All right, well, that's it for us for tonight. For Alex Heinert, Alan Heinert, Jason Andera, I'm Jay Elson. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you back here next week.